Well, young Aussies are throwing a whopping 55 million items of brand new clothing straight into the bin each year and clogging up both the planet and the postal service in the process. For retailers, fast fashion has become a pressing supply chain issue due to a phenomenon known as the remote fitting room, with online fashion marketplaces like Shein selling new clothing for as little as $10. Millennials and Gen Z are bulk buying garments in different sizes and styles and sending back those that are ill-fitting or chucking them away themselves. Kellie is the creative director of the Volte and a member of the Australian Fashion Council. She joins me now live. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. Just how big of an issue is fast fashion?
Oh, it's a massive issue. And I think in terms of the fashion industry, it's a relatively new industry. I mean, I'm old enough to know when it arrived in Australia, which is about 15 years ago. And unfortunately, it's causing massive, massive problems. And we've got a really big consumer education piece to do in this country for sure.
And I mean, the statistics are frightening. I was reading earlier about 65% of garments bought online are sent to landfill each year. Is it a case, Kellie, that we don't realise that we're just throwing away clothes and clogging up the environment?
Oh, absolutely. I think too, we don't see fashion as an investment anymore. I mean, when I was growing up, I hate to keep going back to when I was growing up, but fashion was seen as an investment. You saved up money, you bought something really special and you wore it over and over again and you kept it. I think we've created an industry where it's seen as disposable, the price is disposable, and I don't think we're thinking about its afterlife. And I think that's the most concerning thing. We see images of it, but we really need to think very closely. If we're throwing that much clothing away, you times that by 23, 24 million people, and it's very, very frightening statistics.
Yeah, it certainly is. And we were talking earlier, for example, Shein selling items at just $10, for example. Explain to us how these cheap, mass-produced catwalk copies, I guess, are appearing in global chains at just a fraction of the cost within weeks of big fashion events, for example.
Oh, it's copying. I mean, which is terrible also. We have an incredible fashion industry here in Australia, and we already have a massive problem with counterfeiting. Some of our most successful brands like Zimmerman and Alame are copied by these big companies. Most of them, I have to say, are out of China. It's a mass produced, and they're selling it globally at a fraction of the price. It's very poor quality. And which is the problem. So young women are buying these clothes thinking they're buying the real thing or even a copy, and it's not. And it's destroying those brands too that invest a lot of money in creating beautiful clothes that will last a long time. And that's what we do on the Vault. We have clothes that are beautifully made. They can be worn 30 or 40 times rather than worn once or twice, and they disintegrate and they have to be thrown out.
Oh, absolutely. And the Volt, I guess, is one example of a company doing it right. What are the solutions here? You said that fast fashion is relatively new. So what should happen?
It's a re-education. I think, as I said, when it arrived in Australia, it was all very exciting. We had these great new international brands. We could buy them in Sydney and Melbourne. But I think the reality is they're just pumping, which basically is fashion garbage into the country. The clothes aren't well made. We know that's why they get thrown away. Unfortunately, we have a whole generation of consumers that think $10, $20, that's nothing to pay and then throw it out rather than investing in something that is 3, 4, 5 times the price and hanging on to it. So again, I think there's a massive consumer education piece, that fashion should be seen as an investment, not something that you buy and throw away, or that you buy 5 of them hoping that 1 or 2 of them will fit. It's a really, really bad way, I suppose, as a consumer to see something that is a pollutant and causing massive issues with landfill in this country.